The year 2008. Apple recorded its all-time high earnings. However, after the conference call, the stock price decreased by 2.6% that day and continued to decrease the days after. Newspapers were filled with one message: is Steve Jobs ill? During the conference call, management avoided the question related to the illness of Steve Jobs by answering, "It's a private matter." This simple sentence had disastrous effects on the stock price. But why? The paper of Hollander et al. Helps us to explain this phenomenon. A new trend amongst companies is using conference calls as a voluntary disclosure medium to disclose their quarterly results. During the conference calls, analysts are allowed to comment or ask questions. Conference calls are claimed to play an important role in resolving the information asymmetry problem between managers and outside investors. A huge disadvantage, however, is that it enables participants of the conference call to force management to reveal private information. Hollander et al. Tried to examine the effect of withholding information during conference calls on the company's stock price. They identified conference calls between January 1st and December 31st, 2004. They look at the total number of questions asked, the amount of not at all answered or not properly answered questions, and the subject of the unanswered questions. Previous literature states it is in the nature of managers that they would rather not disclose information if they don't have to. It gives them the freedom to direct the results in a favorable manner. Hollander et al. Tried to find out if managers really do withhold information from conference call participants. They find that managers withhold information during 6 out of 10 calls, with an average of 2 unanswered questions. Most of the avoided questions are about sales numbers and margins. But what is the effect of withholding information on shareholders? Previous literature by Dye and Diamond and Veracha show that investors interpret withheld information as bad news about the company's performance and therefore their stock, causing them to sell their shares immediately. This phenomenon is called unraveling. So managers have the incentive to disclose good news, since this boosts their stock price. It is proven that managers withhold information during conference calls, even though no information is perceived as bad information by shareholders. But why do they withhold information? In some cases, they are just not able to disclose certain information. But in most cases, there are other explanations. A reason for not disclosing all information is high disclosure costs. Besides that, it is hard for outsiders to discipline managers or reassess their competence when there is an incomplete disclosure. Managers also face a tension between the desire to protect information from disclosure as well as making value-increasing disclosures. Another explanation found in prior research is that firms facing impending decline focus on the current strong earnings while limiting long-term forward-looking information. Hollander et al. Find that firms that are more mature and have a larger sales growth are less likely to withhold information. Furthermore, when managers have a stock price incentive, like owning company shares, they are more willing to disclose good as well as bad news. But when these managers are subjected to a large amount of questions, they are more likely not to answer them. In addition, managers can be sued for disclosing too much or too less information. This is called the litigation risk. Lastly, when a firm is larger in size, when it's facing a negative response to an earnings announcement, the firm is more reluctant to disclose information. So after using the paper of Hollander et al., we are able to explain the decreasing stock price of Apple in 2008. Apple held a conference call in which they refused to disclose information. The investors interpret this lack of information as bad news. Therefore, they were uncertain about the future of Apple, causing them to sell shares and decreasing the price of Apple dramatically.
Created using Powtoon.